It was the shot heard round the baseball world this summer. June 7th, 2023, Cincinnati Reds phenom Elly De La Cruz stepped to the plate in the bottom of the first inning against the Dodgers. It was just his second major league game, and on an 0-1 pitch with a runner on, this happened.
Oh, goodness! That ball had a family!
The 458-foot blast, which nearly left the building, heralded the arrival of baseball's newest star. It also seems to have perhaps marked the end for a former one. The man who threw the ball that nearly ended up in Kentucky was 30-year-old Dodgers pitcher Noah Syndergaard. De La Cruz and the Reds rocked him for 6 runs in just 3 innings in that outing. After the game, the Dodgers placed Noah on the 15-day IL, citing a blister on his finger. But with the 7.16 ERA, it's hard to believe that it's just a blister that's hampering Syndergaard. "It's kind of hard to stop the bleeding right now," he said after the Reds game. "I'm kind of running out of words to explain what's going on." Noah Syndergaard isn't just any veteran pitcher. He's frickin' Thor. He used to walk the field like a god amongst men, amongst boys. A god that could throw 102-mile-per-hour fastballs and 95-mile-per-hour sliders. Syndergaard and Mets teammate Jacob deGrom were perhaps the most feared pitching duo in the game at one point. And now, he only seems to make highlight reels when he does something like this.
A 2-run bomb!
Say it ain't so, Noah. Say it ain't so. So, how did we get here? What on earth happened to Noah Syndergaard? It didn't take long for the baseball world to fall in love with Syndergaard's journey, from awkward teenager to the Norse god of the mound. Sports Illustrated called him Cinderella. Growing up in a suburb of Dallas, Texas, Syndergaard was a 5'11", 180-pound 14-year-old with glasses and baby fat. He was slow and uncoordinated, insecure and quiet. He couldn't yet throw 80 miles per hour. But over a few years, Syndergaard transformed himself from a clumsy high school freshman to a ripped 6'6" prospect who could touch the high 90s with his fastball. This resulted in Toronto picking him 38th overall in the 2010 draft. In the minors, he started to grow his hair out and throw a ridiculously hard slider in the low 90s. But before we get more into that, I want to tell you a bit about today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, and how you can still salvage your fantasy season today. Yes, today, even as we near the All-Star break. You see, right now, until July 14th, Underdog is running a fantasy campaign called the 7th Inning Stretch, where you can draft a team for the second half of the MLB season. In what's called their best ball format, all you need to do is join the 7th Inning Stretch, draft your team, and that's it. There are no waivers, no trades, and no in-season management. Draft 20 players and get the best cumulative scores in your starting lineup, made up of 3 pitchers, 3 infielders, 3 outfielders, and 1 flex each week of the regular season. Getting started is simple. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, then sign up with promo code MTC, and Underdog will double your initial deposit up to $100. The 7th Inning Stretch is $150,000 in total prizes, and it's only $7 to enter. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for Underdog with promo code MTC and get that first deposit doubled so you can draft in the 7th Inning Stretch today. Now, back to our video. And what has gone down as one of the most lopsided trades in recent memory, the Blue Jays traded him to the Mets with a few other players for aging knuckleballer R.A. Dickey. By May 2015, when he was just 22 years old, he burst onto the scene in New York. Mets fans fell for him fast, calling him Thor just a few starts into his big league career. By the end of his first partial season in the big leagues, Syndergaard had a 3.24 ERA with 166 strikeouts and just 31 walks in 150 innings. But it was in the playoffs where the young flamethrower announced his presence with authority. The Mets won 3 of the 4 games he started and turned him for a pivotal inning in Game 5 of the NLDS against the Dodgers, en route to a 3-2 win. In the World Series, Syndergaard started the Mets' only victory against the eventual champion Kansas City Royals, going 6 innings and allowing just 3 hits. In his first full big league season in 2016, Norseman Noah just got better, earning an all-star nod with an ERA of 2.56 in the first half of the season. Syndergaard finished the year with a 14-9 record, 2.60 ERA, and a league-leading 2.29 FIP, with a fastball routinely touching triple digits and a slider topping out at 95, a then unheard-of feat. Few starters in baseball threw as hard as the young Texan. Cinderella had arrived at the ball. But it didn't take very long for the magic to start wearing off. The clock began to strike midnight during Syndergaard's first start of 2017, when he was removed from a game with a blood blister. This was just the start of a series of injuries, including a torn back muscle that would sideline the formerly immortal flamethrower. He would start just 2 more games that year, going only 3 innings and 2 late season appearances. Mostly healthy again in 2018, Syndergaard returned to form, briefly. He posted a 2.86 ERA in April, with the return of his fastball being highly publicized. Mets fans rejoiced. Then he strained a ligament in his right index finger and missed nearly 2 months. And, as if things couldn't get any worse, he was put on the IL again after contracting hand, foot, and mouth disease while working at a kids' camp during the All-Star break. Once back on the mound, however, Syndergaard continued to deliver the goods. He finished the injury-plagued season with a 13-4 record and a 3.03 ERA. Despite the now litany of ailments over this short period, his stuff still hadn't seen any significant decline in quality, and so it went for his first 3.5 years in the majors. Syndergaard consistently dealt with the injury bug, but when he was healthy, he was one of the best pitchers in the game. From 2015 to 2018, Syndergaard's 2.66 FIP was second only to Clayton Kershaw. Only Kershaw, Jacob deGrom, and Max Scherzer bested his 2.93 ERA. His strikeout to walk differential of 21.6% was top 10 in the game. His ERA plus never sank below 123. Syndergaard's four-seam fastball velocity had no equal during this period. No other starting pitcher had an average velocity within 1 mile per hour of his 98.1 average velo. Likewise, he had the fastest slider velocity in the league as well, at 91.6 miles per hour, a full 1.6 faster than the next pitcher, his teammate deGrom. His 89.8 mile per hour changeup was also the fastest in the league. Thor's Thunder seemed to strike harder than everyone else's, no matter how he manipulated it. Then came 2019. Syndergaard was healthy but got off to a very slow start. Then, in June, he made yet another trip to the IL with a hamstring injury. By season's end, he had made 32 appearances and thrown 197 innings, but his numbers, including an ERA of 4.28 and an ERA plus of 96, were easily the worst of his career. In retrospect, it was the beginning of the end for Thor. Things would get even worse. Much worse. March 2020, an ominous and impactful month for so many reasons. As the world braces for the explosion of the COVID-19 pandemic, Noah Syndergaard feels a twinge in his right elbow during spring training. He gets an MRI. It's a torn UCL. He'll need Tommy John surgery. It's his most severe injury yet, but no longer a career-threatening one thanks to medical advances. Major League Baseball shuts down. Syndergaard shuts down. Things go quiet for a long time. On September 28, 2021, Syndergaard finally returns to a Major League mound. He throws 1 inning against the Marlins. He would only throw in 1 more game that year, with the 2021 season ending with Noah only having thrown 2 innings in his last 2 Major League seasons. That offseason, the Angels take a flyer on him as he hits free agency for the first time, signing him to a 1-year, $21 million deal for 2022. Angels fans and management crossed their fingers and were cautiously optimistic. In 15 starts, Syndergaard was decent but not great, logging a 3.83 ERA and 1.05 ERA plus in his time there. Post Tommy John surgery, his velocity was down, and he had more so turned himself into a sinker-slider pitcher, relying on movement instead of brute force to get batters out. During his final 3 starts with the Angels, Thor failed to go more than 5 innings. Just before the trade deadline, the Angels shipped him out to the Phillies. The former Norse god of thunder was now worth just then-failed prospect Mickey Moniak and low-ranking minor leaguer Jadiel Sanchez. Syndergaard didn't get any better in Philadelphia. He posted a 4.12 ERA in 10 appearances, managing to rack up just under 55 innings along the way. His K rate plummeted to a career low 5.1 per 9. He was no longer a number 1, 2, or even 3 starter, but the red-hot Phils figured out how to use him in the playoffs. Syndergaard started the game in which they closed out the Braves in the NLDS, and he helped them build a 3-1 lead over the Padres in the NLCS, which they did eventually close out. Against all odds, Syndergaard found himself back in the World Series for yet another NL East team, but the series didn't go too well for Noah or the Phillies. In his 1 start, he gave up 2 runs in 3 innings. The Astros won yet another championship, and the disgraced God of Thunder returned to free agency once again. Still, despite all of his recent struggles, there was some hope this offseason when Syndergaard signed with the Dodgers, a team known for helping struggling pitchers find themselves, including recent rebuilds like Andrew Heaney and Tyler Anderson. Syndergaard had also made some appearances on Tread Athletic's social media page, an organization known for helping pitchers reclamate their careers. Flash forward to the modern day, and it doesn't really seem like anything has worked. Through 12 starts, he's amassed a 7.16 ERA and atrocious 62 ERA+, culminating in the beating he received from Elly De La Cruz and the Reds. So, what exactly happened to Noah Syndergaard? Well, for starters, he was, quite simply, not the same pitcher after Tommy John surgery. He can no longer overpower hitters with his fastball, which is currently averaging 92.3 miles per hour, down more than 5 miles per hour from where it clocked back in 2019 before surgery. To compensate for this lack of velo, Syndergaard has worked hard to add inches of rise and horizontal break to his various heaters, but so far, big league hitters like De La Cruz are eating this remodeled fastball for lunch. Without his true power, Syndergaard has had trouble getting the rest of his pitches working. He's now ditched the slider and replaced it with a cutter. The cutter is actually slower than his prime slider, but faster than his current one. However, it has 4 fewer inches of horizontal sweep, and it's not been nearly as effective as his hard slider once was. Hitters are currently batting .359 off the pitch. Syndergaard has also started trying to throw his curveball again, and even a splitter, but so far, these 2 pitches account for fewer than 12% of his total offerings this season. And that's what Noah Syndergaard now looks like in 2023, someone constantly tinkering with his arsenal and not finding a whole lot of success in a game he used to make look so very easy. Someone once again on the injured list with no clear path to return. So, have we reached rock bottom for Noah Syndergaard? Is there any prospect he could still return to form? Well, yes there is. Plenty of fastball pitchers have lost their heaters and figured out new ways to pitch later in their careers. With some like Dan Haren and Josh Beckett, the cutter provided the new out pitch, extending their effectiveness by multiple seasons. Others like Barry Zito turned to perfecting their breaking pitch as he did with his famous slutter. Still others like Roy Oswalt relied on a killer changeup to stay relevant. Perhaps Syndergaard can find his new out pitch, perhaps not. Even if his career didn't turn out the way most expected, he still has a chance to be a valuable asset to an MLB team, given he can learn how to pitch with his new repertoire, and then perhaps even make yet another run at that elusive World Series title. Now, thanks for watching guys, leave a like if you enjoyed the vid, and click this playlist for other essay content just like this one. Have a great day everyone.